My 11-year-old son grabbed my arm in the grocery store parking lot and whispered words that turned my blood to ice. "Dad, Mom's planning something really bad. I heard her on the phone last night. She said your accident needs to happen before the policy expires." I wanted to tell him he misunderstood. I wanted to believe my wife of 13 years couldn't, but then I remembered the insurance agent who'd visited our house last month. The extra policy I never agreed to sign. And the way my wife's handwriting looked exactly like my signature. Let me back up, because what happened next? It exposed a conspiracy so calculated, so cold, that even now, years later, I still wake up some nights wondering how I missed the signs. My name is Marcus. I live in a quiet suburb outside Charlotte, North Carolina. The kind of place where neighbors wave, where kids ride bikes until the streetlights come on, where nothing bad is supposed to happen. I'd been married to Vanessa for 13 years. We met at a community fundraiser. She was volunteering, radiant in a simple sundress, laughing with elderly donors like she'd known them her whole life. I was immediately drawn to her warmth, her apparent kindness. Our courtship was a whirlwind. Looking back, I see now, it was rushed, almost scripted. At the time, I thought she was genuinely interested in building a future together. We married within a year. Our son, Julian, came 2 years later. A quiet kid, thoughtful beyond his years. The kind of child who watches more than he speaks, who notices details adults miss. Vanessa was the picture-perfect wife. PTA involvement, charity work, always hosting neighborhood gatherings. She managed our finances, handled insurance paperwork, and made sure everything ran smoothly. Too smoothly, I realize now. The first crack appeared 3 months ago. I was working late in my home office when I heard Vanessa on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was different, sharper, colder. "No. I told you. It has to be natural. An accident. Clean." I thought she was discussing a work project. Vanessa did event planning. Maybe a difficult client. I didn't think about it again until 2 weeks later. I was driving home from work when my brakes failed. Completely. Nothing. I managed to coast into a gas station, heart hammering. The mechanic found that the brake line had been cut, partially. Enough that it would fail eventually, but not immediately. "This is weird," he said, showing me. "Almost looks deliberate, but who would do that?" Vandalism, I assumed. Random. The police report went nowhere. Then, a week after that, I got violently ill after dinner. Food poisoning, the ER doctor said. Severe. But I'd recover. Vanessa had made that dinner. She hadn't eaten any of it herself, and claimed she wasn't hungry. Still, I didn't connect the dots. Not until the insurance agent showed up. It was a Saturday afternoon. Julian was at a friend's house. Vanessa answered the door, and I heard her speaking with someone in the entryway. "Mr. Chen is here about the policy updates," she called out. I walked into the living room, confused. Policy updates? The agent, a middle-aged man with a briefcase, extended his hand. "Just finalizing the paperwork on your additional life insurance. Mr. Whitmore, your wife started the application last month." I glanced at Vanessa. She smiled that warm smile. "Honey, remember? We talked about increasing coverage for Julian's future, college, security." I didn't remember that conversation, but I also didn't want to contradict her in front of a stranger and didn't want to seem like I wasn't on top of our family's finances. So I nodded. Mr. Chen laid out the papers. "Just need your signature here and here. This brings your total coverage to $2.3 million. My hand froze. $2.3 million? Well, yes. With the existing policy, plus this rider, that's the payout, should anything happen to you. I looked at the signature line, and there, already filled in on the application form, was my signature. Except, I hadn't signed it. This looks like it's already signed," I said carefully. Mr. Chen adjusted his glasses. "Oh, that's just the initial application your wife submitted. This is the final authorization. Standard process. Vanessa placed her hand on my shoulder. Honey, you're so busy with work. I handled the preliminaries. You just need to finalize it. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't name it. Not then. I signed. The agent left. That night, I pulled out our insurance files from the home office. The signature on the initial application. It was good. Nearly perfect. But under magnification, I could see the slight tremor in the loops. The hesitation. Someone had traced my signature. I told myself I was being paranoid. Vanessa wouldn't forge documents. That was absurd. I said nothing. Until last night. Julian usually sleeps through the night. But he'd been having trouble lately. Nightmares. He said. He'd been getting up for water. Wandering the house. Last night, he got up around 1 a.m., and he heard his mother on the phone in the garage. He told me he'd heard her voice. Urgent and low. So he pressed his ear to the door. This is what my 11-year-old son heard his mother say. Friday works. He'll be alone. Julian has the camping trip. We set everything up weeks ago. Yes. The carbon monoxide detector is already disabled. No. I checked. The life insurance is active. The payout is immediate, as long as it's accidental. He won't suspect anything. He never does. Julian said he stood there. Frozen. His mother, the woman who kissed his forehead every night, who made his lunches, who volunteered at his school, was planning to kill his father. He didn't sleep the rest of the night, and this morning, in that grocery store parking lot, my son found the courage to tell me. Now we're sitting in my truck. The groceries are in the back. Probably getting warm. I don't care. Julian is crying. Not sobbing, he's too scared for that. Just silent tears rolling down his cheeks. Are you mad at me? He whispers. I pull him into a hug so tight, I'm afraid I might hurt him. No. No. Buddy. You did the right thing. You might have just saved my life. What are we going to do? Good question. I have two options. Option 1, confront Vanessa directly. Demand answers. Risk her knowing I'm aware. Risk escalating whatever plan she has in motion. Option 2, trust my son. Dig deeper. Gather proof. And stay alive long enough to expose the truth. Before we continue, I need to ask you something. If you're a parent, if you've ever had that moment where your child told you something that seemed impossible, something that challenged everything you thought you knew, drop a comment, because what happens next? It all comes down to one decision. Do I trust my instinct, or do I trust the woman I've shared a bed with for 13 years? I chose the path that might save my life or destroy my marriage forever. I didn't go home. Instead, I texted Vanessa that Julian and I were grabbing lunch out, maybe catching a movie. Guy time. She responded with a heart emoji. My stomach turned. I drove to a diner on the outskirts of town. Julian and I sat in a corner booth. Untouched plates in front of us. Tell me everything again, I said quietly. Every word you remember. Julian closed his eyes, concentrating. She said, Friday works because you'll be alone. She said, I'd be on the camping trip. Then she said something about carbon monoxide and about a detector being disabled. And then she said the insurance is active and the payout is immediate if it's an accident. Did she mention anyone's name? Who she was talking to? He shook his head. I didn't know anyone in Vanessa's life with that initial. Julian, I need you to think hard. In the past few weeks, has your mom been acting differently? Has anyone new been around the house? He bit his lip. There's been a guy. My pulse spiked. What guy? I don't know his name. He came by twice when you were at work. Mom said he was a contractor, that she was getting quotes for remodeling the basement. But what? But they didn't go to the basement, Dad. They stayed in the kitchen. And once, I saw them hugging. It didn't look like how you hug a contractor. The diner suddenly felt too small, too hot. What did he look like? Tall. Tattoos on his arms. He drove a black truck. And Dad. He looked at me weird. like he was trying to figure something out. It scared me. I took a slow breath. Why didn't you tell me about this before? Julian's eyes filled with fresh tears. Because Mom said not to. She said you'd been stressed about work and didn't need to worry about house projects. She said it was a surprise. I thought I was helping by keeping the secret. Kids believe their parents. They want to believe. Even when something feels wrong, they make excuses because the alternative, that a parent might hurt them, is too terrible to accept. You're helping now, I said firmly. You're helping a lot. I paid the bill and we went to my truck. I sat there, hands on the steering wheel, mind racing. If Vanessa was having an affair, that was one thing. Painful, but survivable. But if she was planning to murder me, I needed proof. Real proof. Julian, I'm going to ask you to do something, and I need you to be brave. Can you do that? He nodded. When we get home, I need you to act completely normal. Like we didn't have this conversation. Can you do that? What are you going to do? I'm going to find out the truth. We pulled into our driveway at 3 p.m. Vanessa's car was there. She was home. I walked in with Julian, carrying grocery bags like nothing was wrong. Vanessa was in the living room, laptop open. She looked up with that smile. There you are. How was the movie? Great, I lied smoothly. Action-packed. Julian mumbled something and headed upstairs to his room. I watched him go, proud of how steady he was. I unpacked groceries while Vanessa worked. Normal Saturday domesticity. Except nothing was normal anymore. That night, after Julian went to bed, Vanessa and I sat on the couch watching television. She leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. You seem tense, she murmured. Work stress, I said. Another lie. She kissed my cheek. Well, you have the Columbus Conference on Wednesday. Maybe the break will do you good. The Columbus Conference. I'd forgotten about it. 3 days away. Wednesday through Friday. Friday. The day Julian mentioned. The day I'd be alone because Julian would be on his camping trip. My blood ran cold. Actually, I said carefully, I was thinking of skipping it. We're overstaffed for that event anyway. Vanessa sat up, and for just a fraction of a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Panic? Anger? Then it was gone, replaced by concern. But honey, you've been planning this for months, and you said the keynote speaker is someone you really wanted to network with. Had I said that? I didn't remember. I know, but… Marcus. She took my hand, earnest. You need this break. For your mental health. Please go. Julian and I will be fine for a few days. She was insisting I leave. I forced a smile. You're right. I'll go. Relief washed over her features. Sunday morning, while Vanessa was at yoga, I made a decision. I went into the garage. Vanessa's car was parked inside. I stood there for a long moment, feeling like a criminal in my own home. Then I opened the driver's side door. The car was immaculate, as always. Vanessa was meticulous about cleaning. I checked the glove compartment. Registration, insurance papers, nothing unusual. I checked under the seats. Nothing. I was about to give up when I remembered something. Years ago, Vanessa's car had a flat tire. When I'd helped her change it, I'd noticed she kept the spare tire well in the trunk, obsessively organized. I popped the trunk, lifted the carpet lining, and there, tucked into the spare tire well, was a burner phone. The cheap flip phone kind people use when they don't want calls traced. My hands shook as I opened it. There were no contacts saved, but there was a text message thread. The number at the top was listed only as D. I scrolled through the messages. My vision blurred with each one. D? You sure about this? Vanessa, I'm sure. It's the only way. D. Carbon monoxide is clean. Painless. He won't even know. Vanessa. Good. I need it to be Friday. He'll be out of town. Comes back Thursday night. The timing has to be perfect. D. What about the kid? Vanessa. He'll be on a school camping trip. Gone all weekend. D. And you're sure the insurance will pay out? Vanessa. 2.3 million. Accidental death. No investigation if it's carbon monoxide. Happens all the time. Faulty detectors, people die in their sleep. D. When do I get my cut? Vanessa. Half now, half when it's done. Just like we agreed. The phone slipped from my hands. I caught it before it hit the concrete floor. This wasn't speculation anymore. It wasn't paranoia. My wife was planning to kill me. With someone named D. For insurance money, I took photos of every message with my own phone. Then, I carefully placed the burner phone back exactly where I'd found it, smoothed the carpet, closed the trunk. I went back inside. Julian was eating cereal at the kitchen table. I ruffled his hair. Hey buddy, can you come to my office for a second? He followed me upstairs. I closed the door. I found something, I said quietly. I need to show you, but it's going to be scary. I showed him the photos of the text messages. Julian's face went pale. Dad, she really is going to. Yeah. What do we do? I crouched down to his level. We need help. Grown-up help. Legal help. Because if we go to the police right now with just this, it might not be enough. We need more proof. We need to catch them in the act. Who's D? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. That afternoon, I told Vanessa I was going to the hardware store. Instead, I drove to a strip mall across town and found an electronics store. I bought a voice-activated recording device. Small, discreet, the kind private investigators use. I also bought a reverse phone lookup subscription on my phone. Back in my truck, I entered the number from Vanessa's burner phone into the lookup service. It took 3 minutes. Then a name appeared. Devin Pritchard. I ran a basic internet search. What came up made my stomach drop. Devin Pritchard, 38. Served 6 years for insurance fraud and conspiracy to commit manslaughter. Released 18 months ago. His mugshot showed the man Julian had described. Tall, tattooed, cold eyes. This wasn't just an affair. My wife had recruited a convicted criminal, someone with experience in exactly this kind of scheme, to help her murder me. I sat in that parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, trying not to vomit. How long had she been planning this? How long had I been sleeping next to someone who saw me as nothing more than a $2.3 million payday? My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Hey honey, grabbing dinner stuff. Any requests? I stared at that message. The casual domesticity of it. The performance. I texted back. Whatever you want is fine. Her response. You're the best. If you're still with me, it means this story matters to you. It means you understand that sometimes the monsters aren't strangers in dark alleys. Sometimes they're the people who share your home, your bed, your life. And if you've ever felt that cold realization, that sinking feeling that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next, it required becoming someone I never thought I'd have to be. Someone willing to set a trap for the woman who was supposed to love me. I drove home, that recording device hidden in my jacket pocket, and I started planning. Monday morning, I called in sick to work. I needed help, professional help. I'd considered going straight to the police, but something Vanessa had said in those text messages gnawed at me. No investigation if it's carbon monoxide. Happens all the time. She was right. Accidental carbon monoxide poisoning is difficult to prove as murder. If I went to the police now, with only text messages and my son's testimony, would they take it seriously enough to act before Friday? I couldn't risk it. I needed someone who understood the legal system, who could help me build an airtight case. My younger brother, Trevor, lived 2 hours away in Raleigh. He was a public defender. Not exactly the white-collar criminal law expert I needed, but he'd know people. I drove to his apartment that morning, Julian in tow. I'd told Vanessa we were going to a trampoline park for the day. Trevor opened the door in sweatpants, coffee in hand. Marcus, what are you doing here? I need your help. It's urgent. One look at my face, and he ushered us inside. I told him everything. The insurance policy, the brake line, the burner phone, the text messages, Devin Pritchard's criminal record. Trevor listened without interrupting. When I finished, he set down his coffee mug very carefully. You need Reginald Okonkwo. Who? He's a defense attorney here in Raleigh. Specializes in cases involving domestic violence, conspiracy, fraud. Trevor hesitated. He's intense, expensive. But he's the best at this kind of thing. And Marcus, he'll believe you. Why wouldn't someone believe me? Because you're a man claiming your wife is trying to kill you. Statistically, that's rare. Most domestic homicide goes the other way. Some attorneys won't take it seriously. Okonkwo will. How do you know? Trevor's face darkened. Because his younger sister was murdered by her husband 12 years ago. Made it look like a car accident. Got away with it for 7 years before someone finally found proof. By then, the bastard had remarried and was planning to do it again. Jesus. Can you call him? I asked. I'll do better than that. I'll drive you there. Reginald Okonkwo's office was in a converted brick building in downtown Raleigh. The sign outside was modest. Asterisk Okonkwo Legal Counsel. Family Law and Criminal Defense. Asterisk. We walked in. The reception area smelled like old books and coffee. A young woman at the desk looked up. We don't have an appointment, Trevor said, but this is an emergency. Tell Mr. Okonkwo that Trevor Whitmore is here with his brother. And it's about conspiracy to commit murder. Her eyes widened. One moment. She disappeared into a back office. Seconds later, a tall man in his 50s emerged. He had silver-streaked hair, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and the kind of presence that commanded attention without saying a word. Trevor, he said, shaking my brother's hand. Then he turned to me. You must be Marcus. Come to my office. Your son can wait here. My assistant will set him up with snacks and a tablet. Julian looked at me nervously. It's okay, I said. I'll be right in there. You're safe. Reginald's office was lined with law books and case files. He gestured to 2 leather chairs and sat across from us, fingers steepled. Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out. I did. I showed him the photos of the text messages, Devin Pritchard's criminal record, the insurance paperwork with the forged signature. Reginald listened, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Your wife is extremely dangerous, he said flatly. And she's been planning this for months, maybe longer. Can I go to the police with what I have? You can, but it won't be enough for an arrest. Text messages without context. A forged signature that's difficult to prove without a handwriting expert. A child's testimony that could be dismissed as misunderstanding. All circumstantial. A decent defense attorney would tear it apart. My heart sank. So, what do I do? You need to catch them in the act, or get a confession on record. How? Reginald opened a desk drawer and pulled out a small black device, no bigger than a USB drive. This is a voice-activated recorder. Professional grade. It can run for 72 hours on a single charge. You hide it somewhere your wife would never think to look, and you let her incriminate herself. I stared at the device. And if she finds it? Then you run. You take your son, and you disappear until we can get law enforcement involved. And if she doesn't, if she just doesn't talk about it again, she will. Reginald's voice was certain. People like your wife, people who commit calculated crimes, they get confident. They rehearse. They talk through the plan to make sure nothing goes wrong, especially with an accomplice like Pritchard. They'll communicate. And when they do, we'll have them. Is this legal? You're recording conversations in your own home regarding a credible threat to your life. Yes, it's legal. And it'll hold up in court. I took the device. It felt impossibly light for something that might save my life. There's something else you need to understand, Reginald said, his tone shifting. I've seen this pattern before. My sister. He paused, jaw tight. My sister's husband planned her death for 8 months, increased her life insurance, sabotaged her car twice. Once it failed, the second time it worked. He walked away with $800,000 and remarried within a year. I'm sorry, I said quietly. Don't be sorry. Be smart. Because men like Devin Pritchard, women like your wife, they don't stop. Even if you confront her, Even if you file for divorce, you become a loose end. And loose ends get cut. The weight of that settled over me. What do I do about Friday? I asked. The camping trip. The conference. That's when they're planning to make their move. You don't go to the conference. You tell your wife you're going, but you stay local. You keep your son with you. And we set up surveillance. Surveillance? I have a contact in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, Detective Harrisburg. He's worked cases like this before. If we present him with enough preliminary evidence, he can authorize protective surveillance. We put cameras in your house, we monitor, and when your wife and Pritchard make their move, we catch them red-handed. I struggled to process it. Is that really possible? If you're willing to use yourself as bait. Trevor put a hand on my shoulder. Marcus, you don't have to do this. There are other ways. What other ways? I turned to him. She's going to kill me, Trev. If not Friday, then the next opportunity. You said it yourself. Okonkwo's the best. So I'm listening to him. Reginald nodded slowly. Then here's the plan. You go home today. You plant this recorder somewhere. She won't find it. I recommend a heating vent, or inside a piece of furniture she never moves. You act completely normal. You prepare for your trip to Columbus. And Wednesday night, you leave for the airport, but you don't actually go. You circle back and stay in a hotel nearby. We'll have Detective Harrisburg's team ready to monitor your home starting Thursday evening. And Julian, you tell the school he's sick. He stays with you at the hotel. We keep him out of harm's way entirely. She'll know something's wrong if Julian doesn't go on the camping trip. Then we tell her he got sick last minute. Food poisoning. Kids get sick all the time. She'll be annoyed, but if she's as smart as these messages suggest, she'll adapt. She might even see it as an opportunity. If the boy is sick at home, she can still proceed. Just needs to adjust the plan. My head was spinning. This is insane. This is survival, Reginald corrected. And I've seen it work. But Marcus, I need you to understand something. Once we set this in motion, there's no going back. Your marriage is over, regardless of the outcome. Even if we're wrong, even if your wife is innocent, which I don't believe for a second, the trust is gone. Are you prepared for that? I thought of Vanessa, the woman I'd married, the mother of my child. And then I thought of those text messages. Asterisk. Carbon monoxide is clean. He won't even know. Asterisk. I'm prepared, I said. This is the moment everything changed. And if you've made it this far, if you're invested in seeing how this plays out, do me one favor. Subscribe to this channel, because the next 72 hours were the most terrifying of my life, and every single second was caught on camera. I left Reginald's office with a clear plan and a device that weighed almost nothing, but felt like it carried the weight of my entire future. Trevor drove Julian and me back home. On the way, I stopped at a hardware store, this time for real, and bought furnace filters, as an excuse for being gone so long. Dad, Julian said quietly from the back seat, are we really going to be okay? I met his eyes in the rearview mirror. Yes, because we're being smart. And we're not alone anymore. When we pulled into the driveway, Vanessa's car was there. I could see her through the kitchen window, moving around, probably making dinner. The performance continued. I walked in carrying the furnace filters. Hey, sorry we're late. Hit traffic coming back. Vanessa smiled. No problem. Dinner's almost ready. How was the trampoline park? Julian, bless him, didn't miss a beat. It was awesome. I did a backflip. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Go wash up. He headed upstairs. I set the filters down and kissed Vanessa on the cheek. It took everything in me not to flinch. Need help with dinner? I asked. I've got it. Why don't you relax? You've been so stressed lately. Stressed, right. I went upstairs to my home office. The room was small, lined with bookshelves and a desk cluttered with paperwork. There was a heating vent near the floor, behind my desk chair. I knelt down, unscrewed the vent cover with a screwdriver from my desk drawer. The recorder fit perfectly inside, tucked into the ductwork, where it wouldn't be visible even if someone looked directly at the vent. I activated it. A tiny green light blinked once, then went dark. 72 hours of battery life. I replaced the vent cover and went back downstairs. Dinner was tense for me, though no one else seemed to notice. Vanessa talked about her day. Julian talked about school. I pushed pasta around my plate and tried to appear normal. That night, Vanessa curled up next to me in bed. "You're still tense," she murmured. "Maybe you should get a massage while you're in Columbus. Treat yourself." "Maybe," I said. She kissed my shoulder. "I love you, you know." I closed my eyes. I know. Did she? Did she love me, even as she planned to kill me? Or was love just another performance? Tuesday passed in a blur. I went to work, acted normal, and came home. Vanessa was her usual self. Attentive, warm, domestic. That night, I packed for my trip to Columbus. Vanessa helped me, folding shirts, reminding me to pack my phone charger. "I'm going to miss you," she said. "It's only 3 days." "I know, but still." She smiled. "The house feels empty when you're gone." The house would have felt permanently empty if her plan had worked. Wednesday morning, I kissed Julian goodbye before school. "Remember," I whispered, "tomorrow you're getting sick. Stomach bug. You tell the school nurse. She'll call Mom. And Mom will pick you up. Then I'll pick you up from Mom." He nodded, nervous but determined. I left for the airport at noon. Vanessa hugged me at the door. "Safe travels. Text me when you land." "I will." I got in my car and drove toward Charlotte Douglas International Airport. But I didn't go inside. Instead, I circled back to a hotel 15 minutes from our house. I'd booked a room under Trevor's name, paid in cash. I texted Vanessa from the airport parking lot. "Boarding now. Love you." Her response, "Love you too. Have a great conference." I sat in that hotel room and waited. Thursday morning, Julian texted me from school. Told the nurse I threw up. She's calling Mom. 20 minutes later, Mom's picking me up. She seems annoyed. 30 minutes after that, I was parked down the street from our house. I watched Vanessa's car pull in with Julian. She walked him inside. And I waited 10 minutes before texting her. "Hey, Julian's school just called me." "He's sick?" "Vanessa." "Yeah. Stomach bug. He's home now. I've got him. Don't worry. Focus on your conference." Me. "Do you need me to come back early?" Vanessa. No. It's fine. He'll be okay. You have important meetings." She wanted me to stay away. I texted Julian, "I'm coming to get you. Be ready." I drove to the house, parked in the driveway, walked in through the front door. Vanessa was in the kitchen, surprise flickering across her face. "Meeting got canceled," I said smoothly. "Figured I'd come home and help with Julian." That's sweet. But really, I can handle it." "I know you can. But I'm here now." I walked upstairs. Julian was in his room, backpack already packed. "Come on, buddy. We're going to stay with Uncle Trevor for a couple days. You'll feel better there." Vanessa appeared in the doorway. "Marcus, that's not necessary. He's fine here. I'd feel better if he was with Trevor. His wife's a nurse, remember? She can keep an eye on him." The lie was weak, but Vanessa couldn't argue without seeming unreasonable. "Fine," she said tightly. "But this seems like overkill. Better safe than sorry." I drove Julian to the hotel. He was pale, shaking slightly. "You did great," I told him. "You were so brave." "Dad, what if she knows? What if she figures it out?" "She won't. We've been careful." That afternoon, Detective Harrisburg arrived at the hotel. He was a stocky man in his 50s, graying beard, kind eyes. Reginald had briefed him fully. "Mr. Whitmore," he said, shaking my hand. "I've reviewed everything Mr. Okonkwo sent me. I want you to know, we're taking this seriously. We'll have plainclothes officers monitoring your home starting at 6 p.m. tonight. We've also obtained a warrant to place surveillance cameras on your property, exterior only, covering entry points. What about the recorder I placed? That's your evidence. If it captures what we think it will, combined with our surveillance, we'll have grounds for arrest. And if nothing happens, then we reassess. But Mr. Whitmore, I've been doing this for 23 years. The pattern here, the planning, the accomplice with priors, something's going to happen. People like your wife don't back down when they're this close. That night, I sat in the hotel room with Julian, watching television neither of us was really seeing. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Julian, feeling any better? Me. A little. Might keep him with Trevor through the weekend just to be safe. Vanessa, okay. I miss you. Me. Miss you, too. Lies on lies on lies. At 8:47 p.m., Detective Harrisburg called. Mr. Whitmore, we have activity. A black pickup truck just pulled into your driveway. Male driver matches the description of Devin Pritchard. Your wife let him in through the front door. My heart hammered. Are you recording? Everything. Exterior cameras are capturing their entry and movements around the property. If they do what we think they're going to do, we'll move in. And the recorder inside? We won't have access to that until you retrieve it. But if they're talking, it's getting everything. I put the phone on speaker so Julian could hear. Dad, is this really happening? He whispered. Yeah, buddy, it is. We waited. 10 minutes passed. 15. Detective Harrisburg's voice came through the phone. Movement in the garage. Pritchard is carrying something. Looks like. Yes. It's a portable generator. They're bringing it into the house. Oh God. Carbon monoxide poisoning requires a carbon monoxide source. Generators produce it in high concentrations if run indoors. They were setting up the murder scene. We need to move, I said. They're going to. Not yet, Harrisburg interrupted. We need them to commit an overt act. Right now, they brought a generator inside. That's not illegal. We need evidence of intent. But, trust me, Mr. Whitmore, we wait. 45 minutes later, Harrisburg called back. They're leaving. The generator is still in the house, set up in your bedroom. They disabled the carbon monoxide detector in the hallway. We saw Pritchard remove it. They're driving away now. My unit is following Pritchard. I have another team staying on your wife. What's the plan? Tomorrow, when you're supposed to return from your trip, you come home. You discover the generator. You call 911. We'll already be in position. When your wife reacts, when she communicates with Pritchard, we'll have everything we need. And if I actually went into that house tonight? If I turned on that generator without knowing? You'd be dead by morning. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did Julian. We sat in that hotel room, lights on, watching the clock. Friday morning came. At 9 a.m., I drove back to my house. Detective Harrisburg and his team were already in position, hidden in unmarked vehicles on nearby streets. I pulled into the driveway, walked to the front door, unlocked it. The house was silent. I went upstairs to my bedroom, and there it was, a portable generator, sitting in the middle of the floor, the kind you use during power outages. The exhaust vent had been positioned facing the bed. If I had come home last night, exhausted from a trip, and gone to sleep without noticing it, the carbon monoxide would have killed me in hours. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, just as we'd planned. 911, what's your emergency? I just got home from a business trip and there's a generator in my bedroom. I didn't put it there. Something's really wrong. The dispatcher took my address. Sir, do not touch the generator. Do not start it. We're sending officers to your location. Within minutes, police cars pulled up. Uniformed officers entered, examined the generator, and took photos. Then Detective Harrisburg arrived. He looked at the setup, then at me. Mr. Whitmore, we need to retrieve that recording device. Now. I led him to my office, unscrewed the vent, pulled out the recorder. Harrisburg plugged it into a laptop. Hit play. And we heard everything. The recording started Wednesday night, shortly after I'd left for my trip. Vanessa's voice, he's gone. Conference is 3 days, we're clear. Devin Pritchard's voice. You sure the kid's going to be away? The camping trip starts Friday morning. By the time he's back, it'll be over. Devin. And the detector? Vanessa. I'll disable it. Thursday night. You bring the generator. We set it up, leave it running in the bedroom. He comes home Friday, exhausted from the trip. Goes to sleep. Generator does the work. By Saturday morning, he's gone. Devin. And you're sure this looks accidental? Vanessa. People die from carbon monoxide poisoning all the time. Faulty generators. People running them indoors during power outages. There's nothing to investigate. The insurance company pays out, we split the money, and I play the grieving widow for a few months before we disappear together. Devin. What if something goes wrong? What if he notices the generator? Vanessa. He won't. He's oblivious. He hasn't noticed anything for months. Not the forged signature, not the brake line, not the poisoning attempts. He's too trusting, too stupid. Devin. And the kid? Vanessa. What about him? Devin. Does he know anything? Vanessa. Julian? No. He's just a kid. He doesn't pay attention to anything except his video games and dinosaurs. There was a pause. Then Vanessa's voice, colder than I'd ever heard it. After this is done, after we get the money, I'm putting Julian in boarding school. I don't want him around. He looks too much like Marcus. It makes me sick. The recording captured their entire plan. The timeline, the method, the motive, everything. Detective Harrisburg looked at me. We have enough. We're making the arrests now. Vanessa was at her yoga class when they arrested her. According to Harrisburg, she didn't resist, didn't cry, just asked for her lawyer. Devin Pritchard was picked up at his apartment. He tried to run, didn't make it far. Both were charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, attempted murder, fraud, and a list of other felonies. I sat in that interrogation room at the police station, giving my statement, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not relief, not sadness, just emptiness. 13 years of marriage, a child together, and she'd been willing to kill me for $2.3 million. Julian was with Trevor and his wife. I'd told him it was over, that we were safe. He'd cried. Not from fear this time, but from grief. Mom really wanted to hurt you, he'd said. Yeah, buddy, she did. Why? How do you explain to an 11-year-old that sometimes people are just broken inside? That greed and selfishness can override every good thing? I don't know, I'd said. But it's not your fault. None of this is your fault. 3 years later, I'm standing here because of one thing. My son's courage. If Julian hadn't trusted his instincts, if he hadn't found the bravery to tell me what he'd heard, I'd be dead, and the world would believe it was an accident. So, if you're a parent, listen to your kids. Really listen. Because sometimes they see the truth before we do. Subscribe if these stories mean something to you. And drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and if you've ever had a moment where trusting someone saved your life. The night after Vanessa's arrest, I should have slept. I should have felt relief. Safety. The knowledge that the immediate threat was neutralized. Instead, I lay awake in Trevor's guest room, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 13 years. How had I missed it? Not just the recent planning, the generator, the text messages, the burner phone, but the foundation of deception that had been laid from the very beginning. Had Vanessa ever loved me? Or had I been a target from the moment we met? These were the questions that tormented me in the darkness. Around 3 a.m., I heard a soft knock on the door. Dad? Julian slipped inside, dragging his blanket. He climbed onto the bed next to me without asking, curling up against my side the way he used to when he was smaller. Can't sleep? I asked. No. We lay there in silence for a while. Then Julian said quietly, I keep thinking, was it my fault? I sat up immediately. What? No. Julian. No. Why would you think that? Because, in the recording, She said she didn't want me around, that I made her sick. Maybe, if I'd been different, better, she wouldn't have. Stop. I pulled him into a tight hug. Listen to me. Nothing about this was your fault. What your mom did, what she was planning, that's on her. Not you. Never you. But, Julian, some people are broken in ways we can't fix. It doesn't matter how good you are, how perfect, or how loving. They're still going to hurt people because that's who they chose to be. You understand? He nodded against my chest, but I could feel him trembling. You saved us, I continued. You heard something wrong, and you told me. That took more courage than most adults have. You're the bravest person I know. I was scared, he whispered. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you act anyway. We stayed like that until dawn, neither of us really sleeping, just holding on to each other. Friday morning, Reginald called. Vanessa's arraignment is scheduled for Monday. She's being held without bail. Judge deemed her a flight risk, given the premeditated nature of the crime. Devin Pritchard is cooperating. Cooperating? Singing like a canary. Gave a full confession in exchange for a reduced sentence. He's testifying that Vanessa approached him 6 months ago with the plan. Showed him your insurance policy. Promised him $500,000 of the payout. 6 months. She'd been planning this for 6 months. Did he say why she wanted me dead? Was it just the money? Reginald hesitated. According to Pritchard, Vanessa told him she'd made a mistake marrying you. That you were boring and predictable, but useful because of your stable income and family inheritance. She wanted out. But divorcing you would mean splitting assets. Killing you meant keeping everything. Boring and predictable. The words shouldn't have hurt, not after everything else, but they did. There's more, Reginald continued. We've uncovered evidence that Vanessa has done this before. My stomach dropped. What? Before she met you, she was engaged to a man named Richard Caldwell. He died in a suspicious car accident 3 weeks before their wedding. Investigation ruled it accidental at the time, but we're reopening the case. There was a life insurance policy. Vanessa was the beneficiary. Oh my God. And before Caldwell, there was another relationship. Man named Timothy Zhao. He survived what was labeled as a home invasion gone wrong. Severe injuries. He told police at the time that something felt off, that his girlfriend had been acting strange. But there was no proof. They never charged anyone. Vanessa wasn't just a wife planning to kill her husband. She was a serial predator. How many people has she hurt? I asked, voice hollow. We don't know yet. But Marcus, you need to understand something. You and Julian are alive because of pure chance. Because your son overheard a conversation, and because you believed him. Without that, you'd be another unfortunate accident statistic. I closed my eyes. When's the trial? Prosecutor is pushing for 6 months. Given the evidence, the recording, the text messages, the generator, Pritchard's testimony, this is going to be a slam dunk. But you'll have to testify. So will Julian. He's 11, I know, and the prosecutor will try to shield him as much as possible. But his testimony about what he heard, about the camping trip timing, it's crucial. I'll prepare him, I said. Over the next few weeks, life took on a surreal quality. I went back to work. Julian went back to school. We moved out of the house. I couldn't stay there. Not with the memories, not with the generator that had nearly killed me. We rented a small apartment closer to Trevor's place. Neighbors and friends heard about the arrest through news coverage. The story had made local headlines. Asterisk woman arrested in murder for hire plot against husband. Asterisk, some people reached out with support. Others disappeared, uncomfortable with the drama. I learned quickly who my real friends were. Julian started therapy. The counselor specialized in children who'd witnessed domestic violence and trauma. He's resilient, she told me after the 3rd session. But he's going to need time to process the betrayal. His mother was supposed to protect him, and instead, she was willing to harm him. That's a fundamental violation of trust. Will he be okay? With support? Consistency? And love? Yes. Children are remarkably adaptable. But he'll carry this. It'll shape how he sees relationships, how he trusts people. Your job is to help him understand that what happened with his mother doesn't represent all people. I was in therapy too, trying to untangle the knot of emotions, anger, grief, betrayal, guilt, for not seeing the signs sooner. You couldn't have known, my therapist said. Abusers and manipulators are skilled at hiding their true nature. They create personas. Vanessa showed you what you wanted to see. But there were signs, I argued. The insurance policy, the accidents, I ignored them. Because you trusted your partner. That's not a character flaw, Marcus. That's normal. Maybe. But it sure felt like a flaw. One evening, about a month after the arrest, Julian and I were eating dinner takeout Chinese food in our bare-bones apartment when he asked a question that caught me off guard. Dad, are you going to get married again? I set down my chopsticks. I don't know, buddy. Why? Because I don't want you to be alone. I'm not alone. I have you. I mean, like, when I grow up and move out. I don't want you to be sad. My throat tightened. I'll be okay. And who says you're moving out? Maybe you'll live with me forever. He smiled a little. That's weird, Dad. Yeah, probably. We ate in silence for a moment. Then, Julian said, if you do get married again, can we make sure she's not evil? I laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd had in weeks. Yeah, buddy. That's definitely going to be on the checklist. And can I meet her first? Before you marry her? So I can check? Absolutely. You're my partner in this. We make decisions together now. He nodded, satisfied. Good. The days blurred together. Work, school, therapy, legal meetings, preparing for the trial. Reginald walked me through what to expect. The questions the prosecutor would ask. The cross-examination from Vanessa's defense attorney. They're going to try to paint you as a paranoid husband who jumped to conclusions, Reginald warned. They'll argue the text messages were taken out of context, that the generator was brought in for legitimate purposes, that Julian misunderstood what he heard. But we have the recording. We do, and it's damning. But they'll fight. They always do. What about Vanessa? Will she testify? Her lawyer would be insane to put her on the stand. But we'll see. I tried to imagine facing Vanessa in court. Looking at her across the courtroom. Hearing her voice. The woman I'd loved. The mother of my child. The woman who'd planned to murder me in my sleep. How do you reconcile those two versions of the same person? You don't, I realized. You just accept that people contain multitudes, and sometimes those multitudes include monstrous capacity. Julian's therapist recommended we create new routines, new positive memories to counterbalance the trauma. So we started small traditions. Friday movie nights, Saturday morning pancakes, Sunday hikes, little things that made life feel normal again. One Saturday, we were hiking a trail near Crowder's Mountain when Julian suddenly stopped. Dad, look. He pointed to a hawk circling overhead, riding the thermals. We watched it for a few minutes, silent. Then Julian said, Do you think Mom thinks about us? The question was so unexpected, I didn't know how to answer. I don't know, I said honestly. I think about her sometimes, he admitted. Not because I miss her. Just, I wonder if she's sorry. Do you want her to be sorry? He considered this. I guess. But I don't think she is. Because if she was sorry, she wouldn't have done it in the first place. Right? Out of the mouths of babes. You're right, I said. People who are truly sorry don't hurt the people they love. Then I don't think I miss her. I think I just miss having a mom. Like a normal mom. I crouched down to his level. You deserved a normal mom. You deserved a mom who protected you and loved you and put you first. I'm sorry. You didn't get that. It's not your fault. I know, but I'm still sorry. He hugged me, quick and fierce. Then pulled back. Can we keep hiking? I want to see if we can make it to the summit. Yeah, buddy, let's go. And we did. Step by step, one foot in front of the other. Because that's all you can do when your world falls apart. You keep moving forward. 2 months after Vanessa's arrest, Detective Harrisburg called with an update. We've identified another potential victim. I was at work, sitting in my office, and nearly dropped the phone. What? Woman named Lena Pritchard, Devon's ex-wife. She came forward after seeing the news coverage, said she'd suspected Devon and Vanessa were involved in some kind of scheme 5 years ago, but couldn't prove it. Turns out, Lena was almost a victim herself. How? Devon increased her life insurance without her knowledge, forged her signature, similar to what Vanessa did to you. Lena found out when the insurance company sent a confirmation letter to her office instead of their home. She confronted Devon. He claimed it was a mistake, but she filed for divorce immediately. Smart woman. Very. She's willing to testify at trial. Establishes a pattern of behavior for Pritchard. Makes Vanessa's defense even harder. I lean back in my chair. How many lives has she destroyed? We're still investigating. But Marcus, I want you to know the DA is confident we're looking at a life sentence. With the evidence we have, there's no way she walks. A life sentence. Vanessa would spend the rest of her days in prison. Part of me felt satisfaction, justice. Another part felt something closer to grief, not for who Vanessa was, but for who I'd believed her to be. The trial date was set. Monday, October 16th. 6 months after the arrest. Reginald prepared me extensively. We rehearsed my testimony, went over every detail. The most important thing, he said, is to stay calm. Don't let the defense attorney rattle you. Answer only what's asked. Don't volunteer extra information. What about Julian? He'll testify, but the judge has agreed to close the courtroom during his testimony. Only essential personnel. The prosecutor will question him gently. His testimony will be brief, just confirming what he heard. When he told you why he was scared. He's terrified. I know. But he's strong. And you'll be there with him. The weekend before the trial, I took Julian to the coast. We needed to get away. Clear our heads. We stayed in a small beach house in Wilmington. Walked the shore, collected shells, watched the sunrise. On Saturday night, sitting on the deck with the ocean roaring in the darkness, Julian asked, "What happens after the trial?" After? Like when it's over. What do we do? I thought about that. We rebuild. We figure out what our life looks like now. We make new memories. Can we move somewhere new? I don't want to go back to Charlotte. Where do you want to go? He shrugged. I don't know. Somewhere quieter. Maybe near the mountains. Or the beach. We can do that. Fresh start. He smiled. I'd like that. That night, I stood on the deck long after Julian went to bed, listening to the waves, and made a decision. Whatever happened in that courtroom, whatever Vanessa's sentence, I wasn't going to let her take anything else from us. We'd survived. Now it was time to live. Monday morning arrived. Trevor drove Julian and me to the courthouse. Reginald met us outside. Ready? He asked. No. Yes, I said. We walked inside. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled walls, rows of benches, the judge's bench elevated at the front. And there, at the defense table, sat Vanessa. It was the first time I'd seen her since the arrest. She looked different. Thinner. Hair pulled back severely. No makeup. The warmth that had defined her features was gone, replaced by something hard and cold. She glanced at me as we entered. Our eyes met, and I saw nothing there. No remorse, no recognition, no emotion at all. It was like looking at a stranger. Julian gripped my hand tightly. I squeezed back. You're okay. I'm right here. The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Marilyn Stevens entered, a stern-faced woman in her 60s with sharp eyes. Be seated, she instructed. We're here for the trial of Vanessa Whitmore, charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, attempted murder, fraud, and related offenses. Are both sides ready? The prosecutor, a capable woman named Amanda Torres, stood. The state is ready, Your Honor. Vanessa's defense attorney, a slick-looking man named Gerald Hayward, stood. Defense is ready. Proceed. And so it began. Amanda Torres laid out the case methodically. She presented the forged insurance documents, the text messages between Vanessa and Devin Pritchard, the burner phone, the generator found in my bedroom, and then the recording. The courtroom was silent as Vanessa's voice filled the space, cold and calculating, discussing my death as casually as planning a dinner party. He's oblivious. He hasn't noticed anything for months. Generator does the work. By Saturday morning, he's gone. I play the grieving widow for a few months before we disappear together. I watch the jury. 12 faces, a mix of ages and backgrounds, all wearing expressions ranging from shock to disgust. One woman in the back row was crying. When the recording ended, Amanda Torres turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard, in the defendant's own words, a plan to commit murder. Premeditated, calculated, cold-blooded. The evidence is overwhelming, but we won't stop there. You'll hear from witnesses. You'll hear from the intended victim. And you'll hear from the child who saved his father's life by having the courage to speak up. She sat down. Gerald Hayward stood for the defense's opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen, my client is innocent. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Innocent? Hayward repeated. Yes, because intent matters. Context matters. And you're going to hear evidence that my client was coerced, manipulated, and threatened by Devin Pritchard, a convicted felon with a history of violence and fraud. Vanessa Whitmore is a victim here, not a perpetrator. It was a desperate argument, but it was all they had. The prosecution called witnesses over the next 3 days. Devin Pritchard took the stand first. He looked smaller than I remembered. Prison jumpsuit, shackles, pale complexion. Amanda Torres questioned him. Mr. Pritchard, how did you meet Vanessa Whitmore? Through a mutual friend, about 2 years ago. And when did your relationship become romantic? Maybe a year ago. And when did the plan to murder Marcus Whitmore begin? Pritchard shifted uncomfortably. 6, 7 months ago. Vanessa approached me. Said she wanted out of her marriage, but couldn't afford to divorce him. Asked if I knew any way to solve the problem. And you suggested murder. No, she suggested it. I just agreed to help. Why? She promised me money, $500,000, from the life insurance. And you believed her? Yeah. She showed me the policy, had it all planned out. Did she ever express remorse, hesitation? Pritchard shook his head. No. She was cold about it. Like it was a business transaction. Gerald Hayward cross-examined, trying to paint Pritchard as the mastermind. Isn't it true, Mr. Pritchard, that you have a history of insurance fraud? Yes. And isn't it possible that you manipulated my client into this scheme? No. No? You, a convicted felon? Expect this jury to believe you were just an innocent accomplice? I'm not innocent. But it was her idea. Her plan. I just followed through. Hayward couldn't shake him. Next, the prosecution called Richard Caldwell's sister, Elizabeth. She testified about Vanessa's relationship with her brother, the suspicious car accident, the insurance payout. Did Vanessa seem grief-stricken after Richard's death? Amanda Torres asked. Elizabeth's voice was tight. No. She seemed relieved. She moved out of state within a month. We never heard from her again. And the insurance money? She collected it, told us she needed it to start over. We never saw a cent, even though Richard had told us he wanted his family taken care of. Timothy Zhao testified via video conference from California. He described the home invasion, his injuries, his suspicions about his then-girlfriend. Did you report those suspicions to police? Amanda Torres asked. Yes, but there was no proof. They couldn't charge anyone. Do you believe now, knowing what you know, that Vanessa Whitmore orchestrated that attack? Objection, Hayward called. Speculation. Sustained, but the damage was done. The jury heard it. On the fourth day, it was my turn. I took the stand, hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. Amanda Torres approached. Mr. Whitmore, how long were you married to the defendant? 13 years. And did you have any indication during that time that she wished you harm? No, not until my son told me what he'd heard. Can you describe that moment? I did. The grocery store parking lot, Julian's whispered warning. The fear in his eyes. And what did you do? I investigated. I found the burner phone, the text messages. I contacted an attorney. Did you confront your wife? No. I was advised not to. We needed more evidence. And the recording device, where did you place it? In a heating vent in my home office. Why there? It was a place my wife would never look. And the office is where she often made private phone calls. Amanda Torres played the recording again for the jury. Then she asked, Mr. Whitmore, how did it feel to hear your wife discuss killing you? I paused. Like my world ended. Did you ever suspect she was capable of this? No, never. Thank you. No further questions. Gerald Hayward approached for cross-examination. Mr. Whitmore, isn't it true that your marriage was troubled? No. You never fought? Of course we fought. All couples fight, but nothing out of the ordinary. And this recording device, you planted it without your wife's knowledge. Yes. That's a violation of privacy, isn't it? I was trying to stay alive. Objection, Amanda Torres called. Argumentative. Sustained. Hayward continued. Did you ever consider that the text messages could have been taken out of context? No. There's no context where discussing killing your husband is acceptable. What about the generator? Could it have been brought into the house for legitimate purposes? Like what? We don't have power outages. There was no reason for it to be in my bedroom. Hayward tried for another hour, but he couldn't shake my testimony. The final witness was Julian. The courtroom was cleared except for essential personnel. Julian sat in the witness chair, small and nervous. Amanda Torres approached gently. Julian, can you tell us what you heard on the night of October 12th? His voice was quiet. I heard my mom on the phone. She was in the garage. I was getting water, and I heard her talking. What did she say? She said, Dad's accident needs to happen on Friday, and that I'd be away at camp, and that carbon monoxide was clean. Did you understand what that meant? I knew it meant something bad, so I told my dad. Were you scared? Tears filled his eyes. Yes. Of your mom? He nodded. Why? Because she's my mom. She's supposed to protect me, but she was talking about hurting Dad, and I didn't know if she'd hurt me too. Amanda Torres's voice was soft. You were very brave, Julian. Thank you. No cross-examination. Even Hayward knew better than to attack a child. Closing arguments came on day 6. Amanda Torres stood before the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is clear. Vanessa Whitmore planned, in cold blood, to murder her husband for financial gain. She recruited an accomplice. She forged documents. She disabled safety equipment. She brought a deadly device into the home where her husband and child slept. If not for the bravery of an 11-year-old boy, Marcus Whitmore would be dead, and Vanessa Whitmore would have collected $2.3 million and walked away. The only question you need to answer is this. Is that attempted murder? The answer is yes. Gerald Hayward's closing was weaker. He argued coercion, manipulation, that Vanessa was a victim of Pritchard's influence. The jury didn't look convinced. Deliberations took 4 hours. When they returned, the foreperson stood. In the case of the state versus Vanessa Whitmore, on the charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of attempted first-degree murder? Guilty. On the charge of fraud? Guilty. Every charge. Guilty on all counts. Vanessa showed no emotion. I felt Julian's hand slip into mine. It's over, I whispered. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Stevens looked at Vanessa. Mrs. Whitmore, you have been found guilty of heinous crimes. You betrayed the trust of your husband, endangered your child, and showed a callous disregard for human life. I am sentencing you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Vanessa was led away in handcuffs. She didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I gave a brief statement. Justice was served today. My son and I can finally start to heal. Thank you. That was all I had to say. We drove away, Julian beside me, Trevor at the wheel. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The weeks following Vanessa's sentencing felt like waking up from a long nightmare. Everything was sharper, clearer. Colors seemed brighter. Food tasted better. The weight that had been crushing my chest since that day in the grocery store parking lot finally lifted. But healing isn't linear. Some days I was fine, productive, hopeful. Other days I couldn't get out of bed, paralyzed by the thought of how close we'd come to dying. Julian experienced the same thing. He'd have good weeks at school, laughing with friends, participating in class. Then suddenly, he'd have a panic attack in the middle of the night, convinced someone was breaking into our apartment. His therapist said it was normal. Trauma responses, PTSD. We worked through it together. 3 months after the trial, I made a decision. We were leaving Charlotte. Too many memories. Too many people who looked at us with pity or curiosity. Too many questions. I applied for a transfer at work. My company had offices across the country. I requested Asheville, North Carolina, mountain town, smaller, quieter. They approved it. Julian and I drove up on a Saturday to look at houses. The mountains surrounded the city, green and ancient and peaceful. I like it here, Julian said, looking out at the view from a potential rental. It feels safe. Yeah, I agreed. It does. We signed a lease that day. Moving was cathartic. Packing up the apartment meant leaving behind the physical remnants of our old life. I donated most of the furniture. I didn't want anything that reminded me of Vanessa. We started fresh. New couch, new beds, new dishes. Julian picked out his own room decorations. Not dinosaurs anymore, he was growing up. He chose posters of scientists and inventors. Marie Curie, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Mae Jemison. I want to study something important when I grow up, he told me. Maybe engineering or medicine. Something that helps people. You've already helped people, buddy. You saved my life. He smiled. I know, but I want to keep helping. Starting over in Asheville was easier than I expected. The city was welcoming, friendly. People didn't know our story unless we chose to tell it. We hiked every weekend, explored trails, watched waterfalls. Julian made friends quickly. His new school had a strong science program, and he thrived. I joined a support group for survivors of domestic violence. It felt strange at first. I was one of the few men in the group, but the experiences were universal. Betrayal, gaslighting, the slow erosion of trust. One woman, Patricia, shared a story eerily similar to mine. Her husband had tried to poison her over the course of a year. She survived only because her daughter noticed the pattern and called 911. People don't believe men can be victims, Patricia said during one session. But control and abuse don't discriminate by gender. She was right. Sharing my story in that group, hearing others' stories, it helped me process the anger and grief I'd been carrying. A year after the trial, I started dating again. It felt terrifying. How do you trust another person after what I'd been through? Her name was Simone. We met at a coffee shop. She was a social worker, kind eyes, easy laugh. We talked for hours that first day. About books, travel, life. I didn't tell her about Vanessa immediately. But on our third date, I knew I had to. We were walking through a park, and she asked about Julian's mother. It's complicated, I said. I'm a social worker. Complicated is my specialty. So I told her everything. The murder plot. The trial. The life sentence. I expected her to run, to make an excuse and disappear. Instead, she sat down on a bench and said, "That's the most terrifying thing I've ever heard. I'm so sorry you went through that." You're not freaked out? I'm freaked out that someone could do that to another person. But Marcus, you survived. You protected your son. That's not something to be ashamed of. We kept dating. Slowly. Carefully. Julian met her after 6 months. I wanted to be sure it was serious before introducing them. They got along well. Simone didn't try to replace his mother, she was just herself. Genuine, present. Dad, Julian said, one night, after she'd left from dinner at our place. She's nice. I like her. Yeah? Yeah. And she makes you smile. You didn't smile much before. Out of the mouths of babes. 2 years after the trial, I received a letter. It was from Lena Pritchard, Devon's ex-wife, the woman who testified. She wrote, "Dear Marcus, I hope this letter finds you and Julian well. I wanted to reach out because watching your trial, hearing your testimony, it gave me courage. For years I blamed myself for not seeing Devon's true nature sooner. I thought I was weak for leaving when I did. But your story showed me that survival is strength. You saved yourself and your son. That's heroic. I've started a nonprofit organization to help victims of financial abuse and domestic conspiracy crimes. We provide legal support, counseling, and safe housing. I'd love for you to be involved if you're interested. Maybe share your story to help others recognize the warning signs. Thank you for your bravery. Sincerely, Lena." I sat with that letter for a long time. Then I called her. We talked for 2 hours. About trauma, recovery, the importance of using our experiences to help others. I agreed to join her board of advisors. And a few months later, I gave my first public speech at a fundraiser for her organization. It was terrifying, standing in front of a room full of people, sharing the most painful chapter of my life. But afterward, 3 people approached me privately. One man said, "My wife is doing exactly what yours did. I thought I was crazy. Thank you for making me feel less alone." One woman said, "I ignored warning signs in my marriage. Not anymore. You might have saved my life." And one teenager said, "My mom's boyfriend scares me. I didn't know if I should tell my dad. Now I know I should." That's when I understood. Our story, Julian's and mine, wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation. Taking the worst thing that ever happened to us and using it to protect others. 3 years after Vanessa's conviction, I married Simone. It was a small ceremony in the mountains. Just close family and friends. Julian was my best man. "You sure about this?" he joked as we stood together before the ceremony. "We could still run." I laughed. "I'm sure. Simone's one of the good ones." "I know." I checked her out. No criminal record. No secret burner phones. "We're good." "You checked her out?" He grinned. "Duh. I'm not letting anyone hurt you again, Dad." My throat tightened. "Thanks, buddy." Simone and I blended our lives carefully. She understood that Julian's relationship with me was sacred, that I'd always put him first, and she never tried to compete with that. Instead, she carved out her own space in our family. She taught Julian to cook. They'd spend Saturday mornings making elaborate brunches while I slept in. She introduced us to hiking trails I didn't know existed. She made our house feel like a home. 4 years after the trial, I received notification that Vanessa wanted to see me. A letter from her prison, requesting a visitation. I stared at that letter for a week before showing it to Reginald. "You don't have to go," he said. "You owe her nothing." "I know. So why are you considering it? Closure, maybe?" "I don't know." He studied me. "Marcus, be very careful. People like Vanessa, even in prison, they're manipulative. She might want to apologize, or she might want to twist the knife one more time. What would you do?" I'd burn the letter and move on with my life. I almost did, but something nagged at me. I showed the letter to Simone. "What do you think?" I asked. "I think you've built an amazing life. You're happy. Julian's thriving. Do you really need to revisit that darkness?" "No. But maybe Julian does." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "He's 14 now. Old enough to have questions. About his mother. About why she did what she did. Maybe seeing her, hearing from her, it would answer some of those questions. Or it would traumatize him further." "Fair point." I asked Julian. We were sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset over the mountains. "Your mom wants to see us," I said carefully. "Sent a letter requesting a visit." Julian was quiet for a long time. Do you want to go? He finally asked. I don't know. Do you? I don't miss her, he said. I don't know, buddy. Can we go and find out? So we did. The visitation was on a Saturday. We drove 3 hours to the women's correctional facility where Vanessa was housed. Security was intense. Metal detectors, pat-downs, multiple checkpoints. Finally, we were led to a visitation room. Cinder block walls, plastic tables, guards stationed at each corner. And then Vanessa was brought in. She looked older, grayer. The vitality that had defined her was gone, replaced by a hollow weariness. She sat across from us, didn't smile, didn't cry, just looked. Marcus, Julian. Her voice was flat. Vanessa, I replied. Silence. Then Julian spoke. Why did you want to see us? Direct, no pretense. Vanessa blinked. Because I wanted to explain. Explain what? Julian's voice was steady. Explain why you tried to kill Dad? Why you called me leverage? She flinched. I never meant for you to hear that. But you said it. I know. So explain, Julian demanded. Vanessa looked at me, then back at Julian. I was desperate. I made terrible choices. I'm not making excuses. What I did was unforgivable. You're right, I said. It is. I just wanted you to know. I think about you. Both of you. Every day. Do you regret it? Julian asked. A pause. Too long of a pause. I regret getting caught, she finally said. And there it was. No remorse. No genuine apology. Just regret that her plan had failed. Julian stood up. We're done here. I followed him out. We didn't speak until we were back in the car. Then Julian said, I'm glad we came. Why? Because now I know. She's not sorry. She's just sorry she lost. And that means I don't have to wonder anymore. Smart kid. We drove home, and we never looked back. It's been 5 years since Vanessa's trial. Julian is 16 now. Tall, confident, doing well in school. He's applying to colleges next year, wants to study forensic psychology. I want to understand why people like Mom do what they do, he told me recently. And maybe help catch them before they hurt people. I couldn't be prouder. Simone and I have a daughter now, Emma, age 2. Julian adores her and is incredibly protective. She's never going to feel unsafe, he told me when she was born. I'm going to make sure of it. My work with Lena's nonprofit has expanded. We've helped over 300 families in the past few years, provided legal aid, counseling, safe housing. Every time I get a message from someone saying, your story saved my life, it makes everything we went through feel not worth it exactly, but purposeful. People ask me sometimes how I moved on, how I learned to trust again after Vanessa. The truth? I didn't just move on. I rebuilt, piece by piece. I rebuilt my sense of safety. I rebuilt my ability to trust. I rebuilt my life around the people who proved themselves trustworthy. Trevor, Reginald, Simone, Julian. And I learned that resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about breaking and choosing to put yourself back together. Julian graduates high school next year. He's already been accepted to 3 universities. Last week, he asked me to come to his room. I want to show you something, he said. He handed me a journal. I've been writing about everything that happened. The therapist suggested it, and I thought, maybe it could help other kids whose parents aren't safe. I opened the journal. The first entry was dated 5 years ago, right after the trial. Asterisk, I don't know if writing this will help, but I'm scared all the time, and Dad says writing helps him. So here goes. Asterisk, entry after entry, chronicling his fear, his confusion, his slow journey to healing. It was heartbreaking and beautiful. This is incredible, Julian. Do you think I could publish it? Anonymously? Just so other kids know they're not alone? I think that's one of the best ideas you've ever had. We're working with a publisher now. Julian's memoir Times, The Boy Who Saved His Father, Times comes out next year. All proceeds go to Lena's nonprofit. Last month, I was invited to speak at a conference on domestic violence and financial abuse. The audience was over 500 people. Attorneys, social workers, law enforcement, survivors. I told our story, Julian's and mine. And at the end, during the Q&A, a woman in the back raised her hand. "How do you forgive?" she asked. "How do you let go of the anger?" I thought about that. "I don't know if I've fully forgiven," I said honestly. Forgiveness is complicated. But I've let go of the anger, because holding on to it was only hurting me. Vanessa's in prison. She can't hurt us anymore, so why give her space in my head? The woman nodded, tears in her eyes. After the talk, she approached me privately. "My husband tried to kill me 3 years ago," she said. "I survived, but I've been so angry. Hearing you tonight, it's the first time I've felt like maybe I can let that go." "You can," I told her. "Not all at once, but little by little." She hugged me. "Thank you." This story isn't just about the darkness people are capable of. It's about the light we find when we refuse to let that darkness win. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt that whisper of doubt about someone close to you, I want you to know, your instincts matter. And if you're a parent, listen to your kids. Really listen. Because Julian saved my life by trusting his instincts and having the courage to speak up. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you've ever had a moment where a child's warning changed everything. Subscribe if you want more true stories about survival, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between parent and child. Because these stories, they're not just about surviving. They're about choosing to live fully, joyfully, gratefully, despite everything. Julian and I were hiking last weekend. Same trail where he'd asked about Vanessa years ago. We reached the summit, looked out over the mountains, and he said, "You know what's weird?" "What?" "I used to think that what happened with Mom was the worst thing that could ever happen to us. And now, I think it was the thing that made us who we are. We're stronger, we're closer. We know what matters." I put my arm around his shoulder. "You're wise beyond your years, kid. I learned from the best." We stood there, father and son, survivors, looking out at the endless mountains. And I realized he was right. We didn't just survive, we thrived. And that, more than any prison sentence, is the ultimate victory.